Minister, are you concerned that prices, especially in the hospitality trade, restaurants, pubs, etc., are going back to Celtic Tiger levels with the full employment situation? People here obviously have more money to spend. We've got then a return to the normal VAT rate. Are these all conspiring to just boost prices and make Ireland less competitive on top of Brexit as well?
I think I've spoken about this at some length before, and I think it varies a lot. I think the situation you're looking at here is that we're very, very competitive in certain areas, but the big hotels continue to charge prices which compare unfavorably with other large hotels. But I think we're very competitive in other areas.
Question for Niall. Is there any evidence that you might be losing out on tourists who, because Britain, as you say, is becoming more competitive from a currency point of view, are you losing out on perhaps some people may otherwise have come around because travelling to Britain? Is there any evidence of that yet?
Sorry, do you mean British people travelling elsewhere?
In terms of you're saying Britain vis-a-vis Ireland has become more competitive on the currency front, is there any evidence that we're losing out perhaps on some overseas visitors who are going to Britain as opposed to coming to Ireland because of perceived competitiveness?
No, I don't think so. We had a meeting of that Brexit-based task force last week with senior members of the UK and Irish travel industry. The dynamics at play at the moment are that the number of British people travelling abroad is actually flat. So we're actually holding our share in that market, which is remarkable given that sterling has declined by 20% in 3 years, and that makes us 20% more expensive. There's no question that there's a great deal more uncertainty within the British market in terms of travel, and the biggest risk for Ireland arising from Brexit is people postponing their decision to take a trip. So, for example, we have done 4 waves of research in the Great Britain market with regard to travel. We also done research in Germany, France and the USA with regard to the impact that Brexit might have. But within the British market, as we headed towards Brexit Day last March and then perhaps the 12th of April, there was up to 12% of British people indicating that they might potentially postpone their trip, and that would have a serious impact if that was to happen again, so to speak, in October. So I think people need more reassurance, and we've done that. We've written out to all our international tour operators in our database that never been easier to get here. The border issues, the common travel area is still secure, but you have to keep on reassuring with that positive message.
Are you anticipating an overall drop in visitor numbers from the UK, mainland Europe now off the back of these downward trends that we're seeing for the month of May?
I think May seems to have been once off to some extent. I think though we'll struggle to find growth in Great Britain and mainland European markets in the second half of the year, particularly with the Brexit uncertainty. I think if Britain holds its own, I think we'll have done really, really well. Because even within British travel out to mainland Europe, they're struggling as well. I think with regard to mainland Europe, the biggest concern now is this is the first time we'll have seen a drop in the air access supply from Germany into Ireland, with Ryanair having pulled their Stuttgart service into Dublin. That's 1,300 seats a week from the end of this month. So Germany, the economic situation there is weak, and it's going to require an awful lot more effort. We have a second campaign going out very shortly to try and stimulate that market, but we're really very stubborn at the moment.
To what extent have you modelled out, either you as Tourism Ireland or the government as a department, the impact of a hard Brexit and what that would mean in terms of visitor numbers? Have you actually crunched the numbers on that?
Well, our colleagues in Fulcher Ireland worked with us in relation to the impact of a hard Brexit, and the revenue cost of the industry is already in the public domain. It's possibly costing up to 400 billion euros. But again, there are so many scenarios that can play out here. All we can do is prepare as best we can and see where that takes us. We've done a huge amount of planning in relation to Brexit. We're obviously marketing the island of Ireland as well, so we have to look at the equation from both perspectives. But we will be as prepared as we can as we head into the October wave again, so to speak, in terms of what happens next. But the one thing for certain though is that regardless of the outcome of Brexit and what shape that takes from a political perspective, people are still going to take their holidays. The number of people travelling around the globe last year was 1.4 billion people. By 2030 that's going to increase to 1.8 billion. So that's why we need to diversify our markets, that even if we have this temporary disruption in Great Britain that Tourism Ireland will have no control over, and that's why now from North America and mainland Europe they account for 60% of our tourism spend, so we're not as exposed to the British market as we were 5 years ago.
Niall, can you give some examples of what you're doing to prepare for Brexit in a hard exit?
Well, first of all, we've upped our investment in Great Britain, so we've increased our visibility, and the Fill Your Art with Ireland campaign has been out there very strong in the first half of the year, and we'll have a programme all the way to the end of the year in Great Britain as well. We're using our PR capacity in Great Britain, again, to keep reassuring messages go out there that Ireland is very much open for business, very easy to get to, very accessible. So despite Brexit and the debate going on, there are still 230,000 seats available every single week in relation to getting from Britain to Ireland. The fares are very, very competitive at the moment, despite the currency issues for when you get here. You still have investment by Irish Continental Group on the new ferry, the WB8s. Stena are investing in 6 new craft, of which at least 3 will go on the Irish Sea Route. And Centre Parks putting in the biggest investment into Ireland. Is this sort of story of confidence that things are still happening, things are still going on, and we know that next year the British will take about 70 million trips abroad, and we just have to try and make sure that Ireland is front of mind, and that's what the marketing campaign is trying to achieve. But certainly as we head towards Brexit Day, the work that our Great Britain Brexit Task Force has done is 4 big waves of research with Red Sea in Great Britain to test and analyse the minds of Great Britain consumers to see whether they might change their tastes or change their pattern. It's important that we keep on top of that intelligence.
Niall, we saw the emergence of the flight chain movement, and also the results of the European election showed a big swing in Central Europe, to pushing governments like the Dutch, the Belgians, the Swedish and the French to aviation taxes. As an island, do you see this as a concern that green taxes will be pushing up airfares over the next in the current cycle?
Certainly there's a momentum in relation to the debate, all right. I mean, we did see the impact of the air travel tax when it was reduced here in 2010 or 2009 of €10, and we had a dramatic reduction in air capacity, which, because we're an island nation, 85% of people who come here come by air. So that will be of significant concern. And if you want to see it at close hand, we were dealing with our colleagues in Northern Ireland who got an air passenger duty of £13. So any flight between Belfast and London, for example, has got a tax of £26 before the airline actually gets anything. So we've seen a lot of air capacity not going into Northern Ireland arising from that air travel tax alone. So it's something that would concern us if it was to impact on direct capacity into mainland Europe. Yeah.
And a question for the Minister, not your remit, probably thankfully, but with all the effort to promote tourism from China, one of the issues that keeps arising is the visa issue. Personally, do you think Ireland should be a member of the Schengen visa system?
I don't think that's my remit, and I think it's a matter which I expressed at Cabinet rather than here.
But on the visa issue, in case you weren't aware, the Department of Justice, at our request, did now launch a new 5-year multi-entry visa for China starting on the 1st of July, which will help in our efforts to promote in the country.
Ireland has benefited, I suppose, from healthy economies in our main markets. There's concerns in the US that it's slowing down. There's concerns in Europe, big economies like Germany might be wobbling. Have you wargamed that scenario that this cycle is coming to an end, perhaps, and that our markets will shrink in the coming years?
Well, certainly the economic climate in our main markets is a key driver of consumer confidence, which is a key driver of the tourism agenda. So we've seen spectacular growth in Irish tourism from North America. The economy has been one driver and air access has been the other one, and we're very heartened by the fact that Aer Lingus are looking to significantly increase their fleet into the US between now and 2025. So we still believe that there are good opportunities in the United States. Particularly, we see most of our growth is coming from the likes of Texas and California. So we've now got the first flight ever coming in from Dallas, just started this month, which is really encouraging. And I understand there may be more expansion coming in California in due course. So I think that really sets us up for good opportunities. But if that market did go into some sort of slide from an economic perspective, it's important that we keep on diversifying to other markets that provide opportunities to us, like China.
Can it ever make up for a shortfall in our traditional markets?
Well, the traditional markets make up about 70% of our business, so that is always going to be. I mean, what we saw during the last Great Recession was all those 4 markets took a hit. We hope now that if there's going to be any hit, that it's a more balanced one, so to speak. So, but we do model that all the time. Yeah.
Is there any concerns that potential crash out Brexit could have an impact on some of those long-haul markets, like say to the US and China, in terms of competitiveness, say from possibly the UK? Sterling was to take a hit as well, in particular.
The biggest risk from a hard case Brexit is actually from the Great Britain market itself, because it accounts still for 40% of our volume, although less than 20% of our revenue. But the key thing about the British market is that 40% of them travel in quarter one and quarter four, so you'll be impacting on those seasons that we're trying to grow. That's the key risk for us there.
Now, the long haul figures are on a par with the international average, 7%. The short haul a little bit short. Is that purely Britain, or are we underperforming in our other short haul markets, France and Germany?
We've grown in the first number of months in those markets, but certainly, I mean, I've been out in those markets in the first part of the year. Consumer confidence is certainly playing a key role in relation to it. In Germany, the low level of economic growth was really leading to a sort of very flatlining scenario emerging for the second half of the year. And in relation to France, I mean, certainly I underestimated the impact of the Gilets Jaunes protests in relation to consumer confidence in the first number of months of the year, and I think that's going to impact on booking patterns as we head into the second part of the year. Yeah.
And one of your key challenges you listed there that you didn't itemise was later booking. How late are people booking, and how big a trauma is it causing for the industry?
It's certainly causing headaches for the industry, no question about it. I mean, certainly our conversations are that people are seeing bookings come in far later. For the airlines, I mean, they find that they have putting very cheap fares into the marketplace to try and stimulate demand, and therefore you've seen one or two airlines go bust around because they can't support those yields. But later booking patterns prove very difficult for our industry, and that's the difference between this year and last year, when a lot of the bookings were in the bag for the summer season at a much earlier stage.